Deadpool and Wolverine is here, and yeah, man, it's awesome. But it also has one of the most confusing endings I've ever seen in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. And on top of that, you sort of walk away from Deadpool thinking like, does that really affect anything in the future when it comes to the MCU, Secret Wars, multiverse, stuff like that? And despite me first thinking like, nah, it's just fun, it's like, there's barely a plot here. When I went back and watched the movie again, it became pretty clear there's actual setup here. And also, maybe what you thought was going on in the movie isn't really what was going on in the movie. So in this video, we're breaking it down. The ending explained what really happened, and we're gonna get damn sweaty and nerdy while we do it. Okay, so at the surface level, basically the movie is about Paradox building this machine, and that machine's there to destroy universes. Now, he pulls Deadpool out of his own timeline to recruit him to go work in the sacred timeline. So Paradox is trying to get Deadpool to work for him, and he's also destroying Deadpool's universe to get a promotion. Then Cassandra Nova escapes the void. She goes to Deadpool's universe, and she uses this machine, this Time Ripper, to destroy that universe, and she's actually going to destroy all the universes out there. It's real bad. So then Deadpool and Wolverine go to this machine. They take the flows of energy, one coming from matter, one coming from antimatter, and basically they form a short circuit of it, sending the energy back up to Cassandra Nova, stopping her from destroying the universe and destroying her in the process. Then Deadpool and Wolverine hold hands and use the power of a freaking bromance to survive the matter and antimatter combining in their bodies and actually save their own universe and timeline. And look, I think the first thing you got to keep in mind here is that Agent Paradox is not a reliable narrator. Like, this dude's lying, man. He's lying to Deadpool. He's lying to a lot of people all throughout the film. So Paradox is telling Deadpool that he's trying to get a promotion. He's trying to show that he's efficient in the TVA, but that's not even true. We find out later in the movie that the higher-ups of the TVA had literally no idea what Paradox was doing. And in fact, at the end of the movie, when B-15 comes in and arrests Paradox, it's for using an unsanctioned Time Ripper. That means the TVA knows what Time Rippers are. They have them, and this guy, Agent Paradox, grabbed up the Time Ripper and was using it in an unsanctioned way. In fact, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, dude, understanding Paradox's motivation here is actually huge because it reveals what the TVA is doing, what's happening to the wider multiverse, and what certain people are trying to do in the wake of that. Number one, he's clearly trying to destroy this universe. Okay, now, is the anchor gone? Yes. They have maybe thousands of years, but Paradox is like, no, I just want to destroy this universe. But he can't prune it. So it means the TVA, after Loki season 2, went around and grabbed up all of the pruning stuff. So you can't prune universes anymore. The multiverse is still being destroyed. Although Loki is, at the end of the time, holding everything together, which basically just stopped the entire timeline, sacred timeline, all of the multiverse from self-destructing because the loom broke. But the timelines and the multiverse still decaying. Now, this anchor being thing is brought up in the film, and I think it's a real thing, but essentially it just means to me the natural death of a universe. I don't think universes are meant to be around forever, and I think Nexus beings that make decisions which cause branch timelines become the anchor beings of that timeline. The main point here is whether you think about Quantumania and Kang talking about how the multiverse is dying, or you think about the TVA talking about the multiverse dying at the end of Loki season 2, or you think about the incursions from Multiverse of Madness. Basically, either way you slice it, the multiverse is dying. So given the fact that the multiverse is ending and this dude's acting rogue and he has contact with people on the void, it makes me think Paradox is basically just trying to set himself up for the actual multiversal war or whatever comes next at the end of all time. Because remember, the end of time was being sorted out by He Who Remains, and the sacred timeline itself was literally on a loop, right? But that has been undone. One thing that Loki accomplishes in the Loki show is to allow the end of time to no longer be fixed. And so whatever's going to happen next in the far future, when we get to the multiversal war, the stuff with Thor and Deadpool, that is no longer fixed. I think the movie tries to present this idea that Deadpool's really special, that the TVA identified him in the far future on the sacred timeline, and then therefore contacted him, and that's what Paradox was doing, basically just following orders from the top. But he's acting rogue, and also remember, he's observing Deadpool. He doesn't move in on Wade Wilson right away. He actually watches him for some time, which suggests Paradox is looking for something more more than just a potential future in the sacred timeline. So I think what Agent Paradox is really doing is looking throughout his sort of section of the multiverse, and he's identifying variants that could show up in the sacred timeline for the multiversal war or something like that. But he's also looking for villains or anti-heroes. He's looking for people that are morally flexible. That's why he approaches Deadpool. Remember, he wants to use the fact that Deadpool wants to be an Avenger, he wants to be in the 616, and he wants to matter, and Paradox uses all of that to manipulate Wade. And also, like, a reason I think that the future's not fixed is because Paradox is willing to let his plan go. He's willing to let that Deadpool just die in his own universe, and he's also willing to prune him. So basically, Paradox identified Deadpool as a potential asset, but not as so essential that he couldn't just kill him and go in a different direction. Now, there is something special about Deadpool, absolutely, right? Which I think is actually a really understated part of the movie's plot. But Deadpool is seen traveling from multiverse to multiverse in 2008, trying to literally get a job in the sacred timeline and commute from his universe to the sacred timeline, which he's doing through Cable's time machine, but we still don't even fully understand what that time machine is, how that time machine works, and how Deadpool's able to use it. It's also weird that TVA knew about Deadpool messing with Cable's time machine, but they didn't really care about it. And I think this has to do with looking at the screen of Deadpool's timeline. There's a ton of different branches coming off of that timeline. So maybe technically speaking, the end of Deadpool 2 takes place after Loki season 2, because then they're not pruning, and that's why they're not really concerned with Deadpool. But Paradox, upon noticing this, upon looking at Deadpool and understanding that he has this ability to travel throughout the multiverse and has a possible future in the multiversal war past the end of time, I think all of this kind of adds up to show that what Agent Paradox was really doing is navigating the end of the multiverse, and he's trying to grab up power, make alliances with variants out there that he thinks would go along with him, and he's also trying to destroy universes, maybe just to buy himself and the multiverse more time. He seems to believe that pruning was the best way to go about it. But I kind of reject the idea that Paradox just wants a promotion. There's a lot of evidence that that's not what's going on, especially like the fact that he has contact with Pyro on the Void. The real reason that Deadpool is special is because of that possible future with Thor. Now, in my opinion, there's no fixed future anymore, so I don't think that's like totally going to happen. Although if it does happen, I think it actually has more to do with Loki pulling the strings behind the scenes as the god of stories. Now that's like a whole nother thing here, but I really do believe that ultimately it will be revealed that Loki is sort of pulling the strings, creating these stories, and Loki is the reason that Deadpool and Wolverine went through this entire adventure, why they had the contact with Cassandra Nova, and how they both became heroes at the end of the movie. Because I think what Loki really needs is heroes, really powerful heroes, to help fight in the multiversal war. Fast forward to the end of the movie, Cassandra Nova finds out that Pyro was working with actual Agent Paradox, and Agent Paradox was just going to kill Cassandra Nova because she's too much of a wild card. Cassandra Nova comes into Deadpool's world as the Time Ripper is finished, and she starts to use it to destroy his own universe. Then she's going to destroy all the universes, so everything goes to the Void, and then she's going to go back to the Void and just rule. Now, it's mentioned that the Time Ripper uses energies. It uses matter and antimatter, basically, that are native in that universe, and it sort of combines them together. And when matter and antimatter collide, it just shreds all of reality at like the quantum or atomic level. Now, on a small side note here, this reminded me of the concept of the negative zone. The negative zone is actually a parallel universe to the main universe of every timeline in Marvel Comics, and the negative zone is made up of antimatter. Reed Richards builds a prison in the negative zone, and eventually it's revealed that Annihilus, this like godlike insect powerful being thing, he's from the negative zone. And this machine also reminded me of the Enigma Force. The Enigma Force is like the power of all that is good within the universe. Sometimes it's called the Omniforce. It creates beings that are meant to fight as like super powered to try to save the particular universe. The Enigma Force is the parallel and the exact opposite of the Dark, which might be connected to the one below all, which is the opposite of the one above all, which is seemingly like God in the Marvel Comics universe. Basically, what I'm saying is there are a lot of outer versal powers that I think are representative of this, the light and the dark, matter and antimatter. The Enigma Force is also the thing that powers Venom to defeat Null in the King in Black story, and Null was being powered by the dark, which again is just that super dark power, that antimatter power. So I don't know exactly what they were going for in this movie with the matter and the antimatter. I think it could connect to the negative zone in the proper universe using outer versal dimensional power, which is a lot like the way Doctor Strange uses magic. The power could be connected to the one above all and the one below all, and this sort of constant dichotomy that is the entire multiverse. It could be the Enigma Force versus the darkness, and just sort of an expression of the primordial forces that were battling it out at the beginning of all recorded time for the very first version of the cosmos. I know that's like a super sweaty explanation, a little rabbit hole there, but that's all the stuff it made me think of as a big comic book fan when I saw this in the film. The TVA is an organization that can use outer versal power, right? So it would just make sense that they go into an individual universe and they're using outer versal power, or at least the ability to siphon outer versal power from the universe itself to destroy itself. Either way, the two of them, Deadpool and Wolverine, have to create a short circuit in that machine to get that energy to start to rip apart the machine itself and Cassandra Nova. Now they go in there, and first it's Deadpool. He's going to just take both strands of energy, combine them, create the short circuit, and he's told that it'll kill him. Even with his crazy healing factor, the antimatter and matter going together, those two forces would rip him apart. Wolverine joins him in this super heroic moment. They hold hands, and together they form that short circuit, and somehow both of them together are able to survive matter and antimatter flowing between them, creating that charge of energy, destroying the machine and destroying Cassandra. Now, there are theories as to why this happened. Now, look, Deadpool believes that the anchor being thing is real. He says that in the movie, and he says, here's your new anchor being, thinking that he brought Logan into this universe and created a new anchor. But B-15 does not confirm that that's actually what happened. In fact, B-15 seems confused as to what happened. She does show everybody that the universe is saved and the timeline is now thriving again, that it literally saved the timeline from dying from the sort of natural death that was happening because of the loss of the anchor. But B-15 literally says, whatever you did, this is what it resulted in. Like, she doesn't even think that the anchor being thing happened. She doesn't say that if she thinks it. It could be the anchor being. Maybe something like that happened. I've also seen a lot of people speculate that it could just be their healing factor. I mean, look, Wolverine has a great healing factor, but Deadpool has a phenomenal healing factor. His healing factor is, I think, the best in the Marvel universe. And so if you combine them both together, maybe it is their healing factor working together as that happened. But I actually think it has more to do with Deadpool's specific power. This is the thing that gave him a possible future in the multiversal war past the end of time. The whole thing with Thor holding him. And Deadpool also does refer to himself as Marvel Jesus. And although most of the time his fourth wall breaking stuff is just for kicks and fun, he's actually a reliable narrator. He's more reliable of a narrator than Agent Paradox. And so there could be this Marvel Jesus thing going on with Deadpool. That leads me to believe that the Enigma Force is actually what is involved here. That, like, Deadpool in this moment of actually making the self-sacrifice, right? Being willing to do that, being super heroic, having that weird power, whatever it is. Maybe it's just some outer versal story power granted to him by Loki or the wider multiverse itself. Either way, Deadpool and Logan somehow, some way actually survived this and caused the universe itself to survive. And when B-15 shows this, by the way, there are still branches coming off of it. And I know there's a lot of confusion about, like, are there technically two Logans in this universe now? Are there two X-23s now? But I think that Deadpool is a branch of what was the main timeline, with Deadpool dying, or with rather Logan dying at the end of Logan. And I basically think all of that stuff still happened. Like, all of that stuff still happened, and maybe now they are just in a branch of a timeline timeline that is going to exist and be good to go without the anchor of Logan. Or it's actually possible that the branch timeline they created is now the main timeline, right? Now that gets really interesting because there are rumors that in the future, after Secret Wars, we're going to get a soft reboot, which is going to sort of take elements of different universes and kind of smash them all together to create like a new sacred timeline. And maybe that's what's going on with Deadpool, right? So I think there's something very interesting going on with Deadpool. Like maybe his healing factor is like quantum. It's like at the level of quantum, and it can like blend into the actual outer versal elements of the multiverse, which would kind of tie into like his fourth wall breaking ability, sorry, you know what I'm saying though. And remember too that B-15 tells them, whatever you did, you saved this timeline. I would rest up because I think you guys are both just getting started. And in the post-credit scene, we see Deadpool at the TVA headquarters. So I think it's very possible that Logan, maybe X-23, and definitely Deadpool are going to continue to work for the TVA moving forward and potentially even be something that's going around either recruiting other heroes to create like a big multiversal Avengers group, or they're going around to sort of try to save dying timelines. And maybe Deadpool in Secret Wars will make some kind of ultimate sacrifice to sort of give his literal fourth wall breaking, like story powers, outer versal powers. Maybe he's going to give them to the multiverse itself to help create the new universe, the new timeline, the new MCU after Secret Wars. And so to really understand the end of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie and really what it is telling you about the wider multiverse within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have to understand that the entire multiverse is collapsing. It's still being destroyed, and it seems like different parts of the TVA are identifying beings that they want to pull out of these dying timelines and bring them to the sacred timeline, seemingly to fight in the multiversal war. And in the wake of that, there are certain agents like Paradox that are going rogue, trying to basically set themselves up for a better time during the multiversal war, and perhaps for survival of it into whatever the next iteration of the cosmos is. And you've got this Deadpool Prime, that was identified by the TVA as having a possible future in the multiversal war on 616. And that character is powerful enough to survive the shredding of a universe, maybe with the help of Logan, but maybe just due to his own sort of place within the cosmos. And that character somehow, some way actually fixed the universe that was dying that he exists in. He also brings in Logan and X-23, and seemingly there's no danger of incursions or crazy stuff going on there. And it seems like Deadpool will continue to work with the TVA, perhaps with his friends, to try to navigate the end of the multiverse and the setup for the multiversal war and Secret Wars. So there you have it, guys, a super sweaty and nerdy breakdown of the ending of Deadpool and Wolverine. And basically, I just wanted to kind of tell you guys that I actually think this movie sets up quite a bit of speculation, fan theories, and future stories in the multiverse saga, definitely leading to Secret Wars. I can't wait to find out like what is actually going on with Deadpool and Thor. That's fascinating to me. And I wonder if any of the future writers are going to take threads from Deadpool and Wolverine and further explain them and really utilize them in the stories that are to come. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.